Howdy, everyone. How you doing? So, a little context to this situation before we get into the interview. Me and Renee were having a great chat, and then we realized her professional mic wasn't hooked up, and it kind of became a little debacle for about 15-ish minutes. And the boy hasn't fully upgraded to premium Zoom, so I only got 45 minutes. So we got a solid like 25, 30 minutes in of talking. So just a heads up, it might be a little bumpy near the end, but I am planning on inviting Renee back and having her on without limitations, so we can actually get a better story and insights on her knowledge. So, without further ado, let us begin. Tell me a little about yourself and your backstory and what you do.
Yeah, I am an best-selling author. I've written 9 books. Really, my what I do started with me writing, just writing a blog, connecting with people on Facebook, and just growing an audience just from sharing a message. I actually started the blog back in, I want to say like 2012, and I was sharing stories and I shared relationship advice and actually shared about my husband and I and how we had been married. I think around that time, it was about 10 or 11 years. I can't remember how many years, but I talked about our story and it just went viral and I wasn't expecting it. It reached over 1 million people. And that led me to writing relationship books and talking about mental health and talking about how our self care and our lives impact our relationships. As a woman who actually I struggled with people pleasing, getting in different relationships that wasn't working out, and I started resonating with other people who could relate. And so yeah, so that's what led me. And so this is my 9th book. The Love Habit is what um, just dropped recently. And yeah, so that's what brought me to this point.
That's awesome. Can you tell me a little more about the love habit? By the way, I love the cover art on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So the love habit is a technique that I share with the acronym love, LOVE. Listen, learn to listen to yourself, listen to your body, your mind, your spirit, learn about yourself. And as you learn about yourself and listen to yourself, you want to begin to optimize, which is the O for love, optimize your daily self care routine that's going to help you to have a happier life and healthier relationships. And then the V is all about validate. You want to validate yourself because a lot of times we seek validation from other people and we just got to learn to not go after other people's approval, but to know that we're enough and to validate yourself. And then finally, the E is for experience, to experience the love, the joy, the peace, the positive emotions that you desire in your life. And so I teach techniques on how to apply that in your life. So, yeah, that's what led me. I actually went through a really tough period in my life years ago. It was about like 6 or 7 years ago. And it led me to, I ended up having depression, anxiety, panic attacks, just going through a lot of things. I had no idea what was going on because things were just changing in my life. And I learned how self care is really the center of it all. And so I began a practice, a daily practice, which is what led me to write The Love Habit, daily self care practices for a happier life and healthier relationships.
That's wonderful. One thing I want to touch on earlier that you mentioned, and then we'll go into the daily habits, is the validation part, especially you mentioned earlier being a people pleaser and seeking validation through others. What did you do to validate yourself and get the same satisfaction without having to go to others?
You know, the more I began to pour into myself, the more I began to make myself important by prioritizing myself and saying, you know what, I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to start my day by investing in my mind and my emotions and my mental health and my emotional health and my physical health. Once I began to do that, I noticed how my self-esteem increased. I gained more confidence, and I didn't need other people's validation because I was validating myself every day. My actions were sending a subconscious message to my mind that I'm enough, that I'm worthy, that I deserve to have the things that I desire. I deserve to put myself first, to know that I'm enough. So it really started from that process of learning that because I didn't know how to do that at first. I would put everybody before me as a mother and a wife and just, a career. I was just so focused on everything else. And that led me to feeling depleted and drained. And I didn't understand that it was a big reason why I was struggling so much with my mental health.
No, that resonates with me because that's exactly what I'm struggling with. That's why I asked, because it's like, what were some of the
Hmm.
things you did? So was it like meditation in the morning, exercising, and stuff like that?
Yeah, so with me, I learned that journaling really helped it was therapy for me, just really getting out my thoughts, writing it out and clearing it out my mind. Cause I think a lot of times we hold on to a lot of the emotional pain and negative thoughts. We just kind of they just sit there and they just dwell in they just it's like they set up house in our minds
Mhm.
and they just dwell there. And it's like I had to learn to clear out a lot of those thoughts and feelings and emotional baggage that was holding me back. And so, yeah, I definitely had to begin to, meditation was major. I'll say that. Meditation was one of the biggest things for me. Along with journaling, but just really learning how to shut off my thoughts because my thoughts were getting in the way of what I really desired. It was all the negative thoughts was stopping me from moving forward in the positive things I desired. And it's like just being in this little doom and gloom, and I had to like push myself out of that, and like, I'm going to just not allow myself to dwell into this. Another thing that I noticed really helps me is just to get up earlier than I usually do, even though my body doesn't want to get up. But getting up early and moving, it sets something off in me, just like, whoa, we got some things we're doing, we're shifting, I don't know, it's something about that getting up and that just it puts you in a mindset of like a fighter or somebody that's boxing, getting ready for a championship, that's up early in the morning, the crack of dawn, and they're going for a run. Like you're putting yourself in this path, like, I'm worth it. I'm going to go for it. And I'm not going to allow these thoughts to keep me in that place.
Yeah, I've noticed that too when I wake up early and then just go to the gym for like 10 minutes at the sauna. That's like like I'm in flow state all day. But then
Yeah.
like today I slept in and it's just groggy and I'm like, why? Why do I even
Yeah.
try?
That's what happens. I totally can relate. Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Cool. It's awesome. Yeah, that's one of my buddies I was talking to, and he said that pretty much the same thing in his own special way. He's like, meditation is corny as everyone says it. They don't fully explain it, but there's something about meditation and just writing it out. He's like, it could be the kindergarten level writing, just get it out of your head kind of thing.
Yes, it is. And you don't have to, it's like they call it mind dumping. Like it doesn't have to make sense.
Hmm.
If just getting it out, clearing your head is just, yes, it is so freeing.
It really is. So, tell me more about the habit because you mentioned with all that getting in the habit and the structure to writing your 9 books. Could you tell me more about that journey and how it got to where it is?
Yeah. So first of all, I've I've been writing so long because I've been a person that loved to journal since I was like in middle school. So
Hmm.
it started off with me just journaling. And I feel like journaling allowed me to be transparent with my writing and just to release it and to also be open to creativity and to listen to my inner voice and to tap into the wisdoms that come intuitively. So journaling was the beginning of the path. And then after I started sharing my stories and helping people and people were reaching out for advice, I was just inspired to write a book. And I was like, I want to share my story. So I started with my first relationship book was about my personal life and my story on how I ended up meeting my husband. It's called When God Sent My Husband, Wisdoms for Capturing and Keeping a Man's Heart. And it was just me just getting out my story. And then after doing that, I had so many people reach out to me because they were so inspired by it, but they were also struggling with toxic relationships. And so that led me to doing more research on why we get stuck in toxic relationships. What is toxic love addiction, which is real, and how we can begin to free ourselves of it. And as I studied that more, did more research on it, it led me to write Addicted to Pain, Renew Your Mind and Heal Your Spirit from a Toxic Relationship in 30 Days. And I can say my path to writing is it doesn't feel like work to me because it's like I have an idea and I just start and I organize my chapters, what I want to focus on and write about. And then what I do is I kind of open my calendars for time for writing, which me, my I enjoy writing early in the morning. I feel like I'm more creative. So when I'm on that in that writing season, I try to write at least 2 hours a day. And then I'll just like give myself the break on weekends and everything. But I spread it out. And it's not always consistent, but this book was a lot because this was the first traditionally published book. All of my other books were self published. So this one was me working with a publisher and I had a deadline and I had to have at least 40,000 words. So it was more of a crunch time. So I really had to focus in, but I look back and say, how did I get it done? Just a few days and they all add up eventually.
Yeah. And I had a publisher, like he's a new publishing company. And that's where I asked him about that. And I said, how do you get your authors to do it? He's like, most creatives miss their deadline, but we know that kind of thing. But he said,
Yeah.
he's like, just show up. He's like, even if you miss like 2 days, just show up at least 5 days a week, like you said. And he's like, you will at least have the book decent enough and we could probably fix it later, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly that's how it went.
But so what publishing company did you go with for the traditional route?
So first I had to because it was just a whole different process. I had to find an agent because
Mm,
I had to first pitch myself to different agents that were in the self-help category who focused on these type of books. And so I came up with a list of agents and I just started sending out emails and I had this it was like a small book proposal that I would send them with my bio and all the things and the ideas about the book. So once I did, interview with a few agents, I ended up picking and signing with an agent. And once I signed with her, we had to work on getting the book proposal ready to pitch to the publishers. And so that took a few months because I needed help with that process. I had never done a full book proposal and I didn't really know how it was. And going through that process was lengthy. And then once the book proposal was done, she started sending and pitching the book proposal to different publishers. And that, you get denied and you get like, oh, and then it's people that's like interested and you have interviews with them and then they pitch it to their team and they're like, oh, we're going to pass. So you're just going through this emotional roller coaster and you're just like, oh my God. So finally the book sold to Broadleaf Books, which is the publisher I'm with.
Okay.
And yeah, and once the book sold, it was just working with the editor, and so yeah, finishing it up, and I think I had about 6 months to complete everything after I started with my publisher. And then I had to send my draft in. I think I probably had, yeah, like 5 or 6 months, send my final draft in. And then we went through the process of editing and all of that stuff. And yeah, and now it's here.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
you gave us the acronym for love. What are some other topics that you delve into that really resonate and are like touch on your heart?
You know, I have to say one of the things that I talk about in the book, and it's actually in chapter 2 of the book, but I talk about your personality and how our personalities are defining not only who we are, but it's telling other people how to treat us. And so we don't always know that there are certain personalities that can attract toxic relationships. For example, if a person has a personality of always saying yes when someone asks them to do something, hey, can you babysit for me? And they're like, yeah, even though they don't want to.
Mhm.
You're basically teaching the other person that you might be a pushover and they can get what they want from you because you always say yes. You never say no. You never have boundaries. And so these are just some of the personality habits that can attract unhealthy relationships. So I go through different personality habits in the book and just talk about how you can work on not only being aware of them, having more self awareness, but learning how to have better relationships through your personality because we teach people how to treat us by how we show up and how we honor ourselves.
Interesting. So I'm just curious, this is me thinking, is there a section within your personality for like the nice guy or the nice girl kind of thing?
I'm glad you said that because chapter I might as well get into it now.
Let's do it.
Chapter 1 is called Nice People Get Hurt Too. And
Okay.
the reason why is because we often think, oh, I'll have a great relationship. And just this is an example for people dating or in romantic relationships. They may start off like, oh, I'm going to have an amazing relationship because I'm going to treat them so good. I'm going to be so nice. I'm going to, buy them this and take them here and call them and share things and all of that stuff. But nice people, just being nice doesn't mean you won't get hurt. Because a lot of times people think being nice is a protection for them to have someone be nice back to them. When that's not always reality,
Now
unfortunately.
you,
If
you're
it was
more
that
likely going to
easy,
get hurt because of that.
yeah, if it's not, it's not always going to happen. So what I talk about is it's better to be kind, but you
Hmm.
also want to be upfront and you want to have some balance between at times where you need to be direct, you need to have the hard conversations, you may need to say, no, I'm not available. But that doesn't mean you're not interested in that person. You just have boundaries. And I think people are afraid of boundaries because they don't want other people to think that,
Oh,
or
he's an
here's the
asshole
thing.
kind of thing.
Right, right, right. I don't want them to not like me. We want to be liked. And so
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to be mad at me. So let me go ahead and, you know, say yes and not have any boundaries.
Yeah. Well, that was my last relationship. I missed so many red flags. Now, like with hindsight looking at it, I'm like, dude, there were so many in front of you. Um,
Yeah.
like for example, when we were first talking, I mean, like the first 2 weeks, I was just nonstop texting back and forth, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. I was lonely. I was working night shift at the time. She didn't really
Hmm.
have any friends, so I'm like, all right. So I'm like her weird friend. But after like the 2 week point, I realized she intentionally kept holding me up, like because I had to go to sleep by 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. And I'm like, wow, she knows I'm supposed to go to sleep, and she still keeps talking to me. I'm like, all right, whatever, kind of thing. And then that was the biggest one I realized when I actually set boundaries, she just freaked out. And so
Oh, yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that's
And you
where sorry, you go.
No, yeah, that's so good. I'm glad. Thanks for sharing that because that's a great example of what I talk about and I share with my clients because sometimes in the beginning of the relationship, it's like you really want to, it's like you're excited because it's a new person, but at the same time, you have your boundaries and you can't, cater to all of their needs.
Right.
And so, yeah, and so I think at the beginning is where you really can like throw those boundaries out there just to kind of see how far they're willing, like how much they like you and are willing to invest and say, you know what, I'm going to honor your boundaries so that you get your rest. That's important to you. I'm going to call you back. But some people can be very clingy, and,
Hmm.
that could be a big red flag, but I love that. Just knowing how to put those boundaries out there and let them know and have, I think it's good to say up front, hey, just a heads up. These are the best times for us to talk because I'm doing this. And then once you test it and they start, like you said, she just went overboard once you start implementing it because she was so used to being able to get what she want.
Hmm.
So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. No, that was the biggest one with like hindsight. I'm like, dude, you were lonely and frankly a little horny. You should not have just tolerated that kind of thing.
That is because listen, when you're in a place where you're where you're desperate, where you're just
Hmm.
like, I really need a relationship, other people can sense that and they can pick up on that energy. And so that's another thing I talk about in the book is that, you know, you may not be aware of this, but people can read your vibes and your energy without you even saying the words.
Oh
So
yeah.
just knowing that you in a place and where you are right now, emotionally, energetically, physically, that's going to influence the relationship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I learned I actually learned that by accident after I broke it off from my ex. And there was this very nice lady at one of the sites I work at. And I
Hmm.
noticed she put a lot of effort with like a hot pink sweater with this matching hot pink shoes. So I was like, I remember from my ex, I'm like, okay, if they're matching like that, they really put a lot of thought into their outfit, but they're gonna say, no, 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 this little thing, I just slapped it together, kind of thing. So I said, hey, that's a really nice outfit. And she's like, oh, thank you. This little thing, I just slapped it together. And I'm like, so she really put a lot of thought into it. When it was like, all right, we'll have a good one, went about my day. And it was just one of those, literally, because I just cut it off quickly. She actually came back and was like, so started talking to me, and it's like, hey, you're kind of cool. Can I get your number? No. And I'm blindsided. I'm like, wait, so I was only like guys approach girls. How does this work? Is it because I left her so quickly? It was just one of
Yeah,
those, yeah.
yeah, that is something because it's like you gave her a compliment and that probably made her day.
Probably.
You don't even realize some people that could be all they need to hear, and and that probably opened her up to say, "Hey, I'm kind of interested," So yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, it was a hot mess. It could be a whole freaking podcast for that one, but essentially, uh, a lot of things unraveled. But I
Oh,
always still
okay.
remembered, I'm like, wow, I just gave a compliment, a simple compliment, and this beautiful woman actually asked me for my number, kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah. That's all it takes.
When,
Yeah.
yeah, it was someone else told me, like, apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of women are not getting the same amount of compliments as they used to, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of men, especially now in society, because with social media, with all of the virtual distractions, aren't as they're not approaching women as much as, you know, I think it should be. It should be more of that. It should be more in person. I think a lot of people are comfortable hiding behind the dating apps and doing, long distance. There's more long distance relationships and things like that. But I do think the in person compliments matter, and it could be that simple, Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
And especially when you're polite, you're not just, hey,
like,
hottie,
hey, good looking.
you're being polite about it, then it makes a difference.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Just a heads up though, with the debacle in the beginning, we only got like 5 minutes left.
Okay, no
Do you
problem.
want to do like a reschedule to continue this?
Oh, we're good. We can go with the flow. We can wrap it up if you want, or
No,
however you want to do it.
I just don't want to be awkward halfway through a conversation.
No, that's okay. I'm all for it. I understand. I think we did. I lost track of time. I think it did say 45 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it's all good. Um, yeah, I agree with the compliment part. Since we're wrapping it up real quick, uh, tell us more about what you're doing, current campaigns, where they can reach out to you, if they want to, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm available on social media under Rainie Howard. You can also go to my website at rainiehoward.com. The book, The Love Habit, is available. You can look up any of my books. They're available anywhere books are sold. You can get it on Amazon. They're shipping out pretty fast. So just search The Love Habit by Rainie Howard on Amazon. But also, I have a podcast, The Rainie Howard Show, which is available as well on YouTube and other podcast platforms. But this conversation, I think it's really good to know that, you know, when it comes to our daily self-care practices, it can impact not only our lives and bring more happiness, but also our relationships. So I just want to encourage everyone who's tuning in to apply the daily techniques in your life, and you'll see transformation.
Perfect. Well, I just bought the Audible version of it, so I'm looking forward to hearing you talk about it. I see that you
Oh,
read it.
thank you. Awesome.
Thank you. No, this has been really good. Uh, I probably will reach out to you again to get an air calling because you definitely have a lot of knowledge, and it would be very valuable to me, but also to everyone else listening too.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know. I'll try to put it on the schedule, definitely. So, where can
All right.
I hear the podcast when it's available? You'll send it to me, or
Yeah, I have your email and stuff like that. I'll send you the link and all that information.
okay, perfect. And I'll share it with on my platform too.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much, Josh.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're a awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome and see you next time.